Shalom, I'm Rabbi Josh Rose, and this is Shikul Da'at. I want to give you two snapshots from the Torah portion this week that together teach us something very profound about our own limitations and our own potential. So the Torah portion is Parshat Behaalotecha, which is in the book of Numbers. So the first snapshot is this. The Torah portion starts with these words, Vayidaber Hashem el Moshe le'mor. God spoke to Moses, saying, Deber el Aharon v'amarta elav, Behaalotecha et nerot el mul penei hamenorah, ya'iru shiv'at nerot. Speak to Aaron and say to him, when you light the lamps, let the 7 lamps give light at the front of the lampstand. Vayas ken Aharon el mul penei hamenorah, ve'ela neroteha ka'asher tiva Hashem et Moshe. Aaron did so. He lit the lamps at the front of the lampstand as Hashem had commanded Moshe. So Rashi finds something unsettling just beneath the surface. He asks this question. Why is the section here juxtaposed with the section dealing with the offering of the tribal heads? And I'll explain that in just a moment. Because when Aaron saw the dedication offerings of the tribal heads, he was distressed because neither he nor his tribe was with them in the dedication. So the Holy One said to him, by your life, your portion, Aaron, is of greater importance than theirs, for you will kindle and arrange the lamps. So the rabbis often learn something by asking why 2 sections are placed back to back, and that's what Rashi is doing here. At the end of last week's Torah portion, we read about the inauguration ceremony in which the heads of each of the tribes came forth and made an offering. But we notice in reading it that the tribe of Levi, of whom Aaron is the head, was not commanded or invited to be part of this inauguration ceremony to make an offering. So Rashi says Aaron was anxious at being left out of this honor at this important turning point in the life of the Jewish people. And I'm sure we've all experienced that kind of anxiety. We hear about an invitation that someone else received, a recognition that we thought might be due to us, or simply an opportunity that someone else had, and we experience a moment of self-doubt or unease. What's interesting, though, is that Rashi is referring to a Midrash in Midrash Tanchuma, but he excludes something really interesting in his kind of abbreviated summary of that Midrash. The Midrash itself includes the following detail. It says, when Aaron did not approach with the heads of the tribes, that is, at the inauguration ceremony, he said to himself, woe is me, maybe it is because of me that the tribe of Levi has been left out. So why would Aaron have this anxiety? So think back into his past. Why would he think that he was being punished or he did something wrong? Can you remember another moment when Aaron was at the center of Israelite worship, but at a time when things didn't go so well? Right, the golden calf. Its creation was facilitated by Aaron, who was trying at the time to kind of keep the Israelites at bay with their crowd madness. But that cloud of national tragedy hangs over Aaron's head. He's so focused on his past, though, at this point, his own shame, according to the Midrash, that he can't quite see the bigger picture. We'll come back to this in a moment. So let's now look at the second snapshot. A few verses after this picture of Aaron, the Torah describes the process of the investiture of the Levites, who are to help lead the people. So investiture is accomplished by laying on of hands. For example, when I was granted smicha, when I was invested as a rabbi, the head of the school placed his hands on the shoulders of each of the rabbinic students or candidates and blessed us, and in so doing made us rabbis. In my case, I had the extraordinary blessing of my father performing my smicha. So my dad put his hands on my shoulders, and that's a moment that I'll never forget. But in any event, lahavdil, to make a distinction, Moses later on will elevate Joshua for Joshua's succession to Moses' leadership in precisely the same way in the chapter 27 of the book of Numbers. So in our second snapshot, the Torah says, V'samchu v'nei Yisrael et yadehem al ha-levi'im. The children of Israel shall lay their hands on the Levi'im. So the Shem Mishmuel, who you might know is one of my favorite Hasidic commentators, notes how strange this is. Smicha is given by someone greater to someone lesser. Moses to Joshua, in the example that I gave just a moment ago. So how can the Israelite masses affect the smicha of the Levi'im? How can the Israelites invest the Levi'im, who are at a higher position than they are? The Shem Mishmuel explains by way of a Midrash on an earlier verse that discusses each of the tribes taking their camp around the Mishkan, around the sanctuary. The Midrash says of the Israelites, "Shirichaku atzmam min hamishkan v'natnu makom leLeviim lachanot saviv leMishkan," which means they, that is the Israelites, distanced themselves from the Mishkan, the sanctuary, and made a place for the Levites to camp around the Mishkan, the sanctuary. So according to the Shem Mishmuel and also the Eitz Yosef, another commentator on the Midrash is singing the praise of the Israelites for full-heartedly and benevolently recognizing the appropriate place of the Levites. The Shem Mishmuel says that this kind of benevolence, which he calls tovat ayin, literally a goodness of eye or looking generously upon another, is a very elevated spiritual state. We have to summon a very, very high spiritual level in order to look at another or think about another in that way. His idea is so interesting, I think. The Shem Mishmuel is saying that in recognizing the higher authority of the Levites, but doing so with grace and benevolence and goodwill, the Jewish people achieved a higher spiritual state. And then being in that higher spiritual state is what gave the Jewish people as a whole the authority, so to speak, to invest the Levites with their authority, which was at a higher level, a leadership level above the Israelites. It's a complicated but very beautiful dynamic that he's sketching out. So let's look at our two snapshots together and see what we can make of them. Again, the first is Aaron, who was disappointed that he wasn't part of the inauguration, but was then designated to set up the menorah and to light the lamps. And second is the Israelites graciously making space for the authority of the Levites. The Aaron snapshot has something to teach us about jealousy and self-doubt and self-acceptance. Aaron's unease about not being included in the inauguration at the end of last week's Torah portion leads him to focus on his own shameful past. Remember that he says, or he thinks, it must be because of me that my tribe was left out. In fact, though, he was left out simply because he has a different role to play. We do this too. When we focus on what others have that we don't, self-doubt or even self-loathing creeps in. We consider ourselves unworthy. And God says, in effect, to Aaron in the Midrash, you are a different person with a different role. Aaron can't illuminate the people as their leader until he accepts that and moves beyond his misplaced yearnings and his shame. In the second snapshot, the Israelites could help the Levites fulfill their proper role when they made space for them to do so. And by allowing that to happen, they had the honor of elevating the Levites so that the Israelites could then be blessed by Levitical leadership. We have to accept who we are not in order to become who we are. Now, I'm not talking about some passive acceptance of the lot given to us that we're just supposed to sort of shoulder and then passively not ever strive for anything. We should all cultivate ourselves. We should aspire to greatness in whatever gifts and aspirations we have. But we can't really do that as long as we're chasing someone else's dream. I best honor the people in my life when I recognize their strengths and their gifts, the ones that they have or the ones that they've been given or the ones that they've developed. Fighting against myself to be who I'm not and resenting those who have what I don't poisons everyone. When I accept my limitations, I can see you more clearly. And when I can see that those limitations are in fact the foundation of my own strengths, I can grow into the person that I must be. In short, you are who you are not. One of the most famous teachings of the Kotzker rabbi has it this way: if I am I because I am I, and you are you because you are you, then I am I and you are you. But if I am I because you are you, and you are you because I am I, then I am not I, and you are not you. What Aaron learns and the Israelites model so beautifully in these Midrashim is a way of being in the world in which each of us can discover the role for which we have been created, lovingly affirm the space between one another, and build on our strengths by accepting who we are and the unique task we must fulfill in the world. May we each have the confidence and humility to learn from Aaron and the Israelites. Have a great week. Thank you so much for listening.